I'll have to leave out of here. Well,
hello.
There we go.
Hello.
So, by the way, if you happen to hear wildlife in the background, we do have chickens here to our right, your left, and on my knee is a timer, and my favorite timer, I'm known for it now around the world, is my timer sounds, and it's a duck. So if you hear poultry, it's on purpose. So
if you hear some foul language.
And if you know us at all, Audra and I appreciate wordplay and puns probably more than, I'm behind on my dad joke stuff, so I got to catch up with my dad jokes. Failure as a father. I got a dad joke book for Christmas, and so the kids will have me read it at dinner. So anyway, so I'm a couple days behind. But we're here just still talking out our story. Again, thank you everyone for all of the response and the replies and how it's encouraging you. We really appreciate that. Again, please, privately or publicly, or how is comfortable for you, ask us any questions you have, even about our own story, or if there's an aspect of it you'd like clarity on, or if there's anything we can help you with. It really does help us to know what you want, because again, I mean, man, you hate to say it's so common, but it's common family disintegration, right? You know, family disintegration, dads not being there, all the stuff that is just, again, like I said, is unfortunately just so common in our modern culture, is what we're wanting to address, right? We're wanting to, in the sense of address it and help. So we've been talking about our journey, and so we left off yesterday. We watched it here right before we got on. That's why we were just a few minutes behind, is because I came in, I said, so where did we leave off yesterday?
I don't know.
So
did we talk yesterday?
So we're going to need a continuity secretary I can see as we go. But we talked about how, again, so how do you blend this together? Because again, like you said, Audra, well, you had, it wasn't like you were sitting there on a rock until you were 20 going, I'm waiting for my father.
It's like, Tarzan, raised in the jungle.
You know, you had a life, you had a plan, you were moving in a direction. Obviously, Celine and I and our other children were moving in a direction, and God brought us together, and there is the proverbial blending of things. And I guess maybe that's what we're actually addressing a little bit, is how do you blend a family, right?
That's really tough, because we talk about this all the time. Blended families don't blend.
They don't really blend well.
And we don't mean that to be discouraging. It just means that let's just go ahead and address the elephant in the room. If you're blending a family, it means that your other family was broken.
Yeah.
Like how God's design was made was broken.
That's right.
It could be because your parents died and you're an orphan. It can be because whatever. It can be... that can be as individual as the person. But if you're a person who is finding yourself coming into a situation that you're joining another family through adoption, through fostering, through restoration, because your parents weren't the people they were when you were young, there's still brokenness. That's right. Still, there's a lot of hurt. And we don't talk about that. You just kind of think about, like, I don't even know if people watch the Brady Bunch anymore, like the Brady Bunch or whatever your favorite blended family show is that's been on TV since
families were broken.
That's what you hear about, but it's tough because you have to answer, we had to answer tough questions like, okay, I need to hear your story. So here's what I was told as a child. Okay, you need to hear my story. And then we had to talk about pain. Both of our pain, both of the things we wanted to see, realizing that, I could have come into your life sooner, and we could have done this, and we could have done, and you have to go through the coulda, shoulda, wouldas. And you almost have to. Because if you don't, then, I don't know. You just have to talk about every elephant in the room.
That's right.
And depending how bad the situation is, your room might be pretty crowded.
Well, you know, you might have a herd. That's like to have a herd of elephants. You know, it's like this. There's a verse in Proverbs, one of my favorite. I wish I could remember the address. Somebody can let me know in the comments. But it says, "Where there is no ox, the stable is clean." But there is great profitability by the strength of the ox. Yeah. And I love I'll just give full credit. I love what I heard Pastor Mark Gungor out of Green Bay say one time. He said this, basically the paraphrase of that verse is, no ox, no poo. Right? And so what you're looking for in life is a good, healthy ox to poo ratio. Yeah. Right?
You don't want your ox to have diarrhea. That's bad.
That's right. Yeah, because if your ox has too much poo, you got a sick ox, right? Yeah. But if you have a constipated ox, you also have
a sick ox.
Have a sick ox, right? Yeah. So you want a good, healthy ox to poo ratio. Yeah. And as you're talking about that, and guys, listen, in life, and again, and especially as you're seeking out restoration, you're seeking out rebuilding under God's design, because that's what we're actually talking about. Is okay, God, and I want to I totally own between what happened between you and I. It's my fault, right? It's my fault. I left. I walked out. I gave in to cowardice. I gave in to fear. I didn't know what to do. I mean, I could go down a litany of quote unquote excuses. But like we tell our kids all the time, my excuses don't excuse me. Yeah. Right? It's my fault. So if you're that person, if you're like me in what you're trying to rebuild, you have to own your ox poo, right? Yeah. You have to say, hey, listen, that was my ox that made the mess. My ox created this. This is my fault. And again, like for you, and that's some of the stuff. Because you are not, and again, if you're here and you find yourself the product of something outside of God's design, it's not your fault. Yeah. Right? It's not your fault. Yeah. And that's one thing I want to help, not just, and I think we have worked this out with you, but to help other people that find themselves product of, again, you might say affairs, illegitimate pregnancies, rape, or molestation, or any, man, that is not your fault.
And that's so hard, because even like when we talked, we had, I think one of the first time you spoke, I pulled you aside because you're like, God took my greatest mistake. Yeah. And I was like, I'm not a mistake. And you're like, that's not what I meant. And I was like, well, that's kind of how it sounds like. Yeah. And I don't appreciate that. Can we work on the wording of that? Can you explain that better? Yeah. Can you, and you have to do that, because when you're a kid, just so you know, and those of you who've been through this, when you're the kid, kids have no, I'm not saying they don't have emotion. They have no way to properly process emotion. Yeah. So you have an emotion and you think, it's me. I'm the problem. That literally was me my entire life. No, I didn't talk about these things. I'm, like I said, the private person. Kept things in because I had to, kind of stuff. So I used to carry that around a lot. And so part of what we had to unpack was, hey, I need to talk to you because I felt like a big mistake. And like, what am I even doing here my entire life? And we talked about that a lot. Yeah. And everybody said all the right things. Put it this way. Everybody said all the right things. I grew up in church. I was a good Baptist child. Like, you know, so you heard, oh, you're not a mistake. You're this or that. But internally, you look around at the situation and you go, yeah, I don't believe you. Because everything around you says
you're a mistake.
You're a mistake. And I used to think I ruined. That's another big thing. I used to think I ruined everyone's life. I grew up feeling like I am the giant wrecking ball in everyone's life. And that was kind of weird, because when you think about restoration, I knew coming in, one of the first questions I asked was, where is your wife on this? Is she okay? Do your children know? Does anybody else in your life know? Like, or is this going, am I about to blow up your life? Because if I am, it was nice meeting you. We are not doing this. Yeah. Remember, I think I told you that like, very clearly. Like, so I had very clear, like, here's what I need to see and know before we continue, because I was very cautious about. I was anyway, and maybe that was just my own fear.
Well, I think for you, it's not. It was. It might have been a fear, but I think it was also just protection. Yeah. Like it was because you were grown. You were in college.
We didn't have to do it.
We didn't have to do this.
We didn't have to. We could just know each other, and that could just be enough. Yeah. And I was actually, in my mind, that's what I thought was going to happen at first. I had no, like, he's the one who invited me in. Like, I want to be full stop in your life. And I was like, wow, okay. like, I don't know if you remember that, like, I was kind of shocked.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that I didn't want it, I just didn't even know.
Yeah.
I didn't even
know what to do with it.
Imagine to expect it. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, I didn't know. I didn't even know you'd be that. Honestly, I didn't even think you'd be that interested.
Well, and I can look backwards now, 12 years later, and the Lord has taught me so much, and what I've learned since meeting you, and not just through meeting you, but is the power of a father. Mm-hmm. So I really want to speak that to any fathers, any dads. Hey, share this with dads. Hey, listen, this is, we share a unique superpower, is what I call it, with Heavenly Father. Yeah. Meaning that things really rise and fall out of us. Mm-hmm. Right? And again, I'm not saying I had this all, it was some plan and I had this all, I knew this deep secret knowledge of of whatever. Is that who I think it is?
It is.
That's awesome. Yay. Yeah. That's cool. Anyway, but sorry, she got a text. I'm picking on her. It's my job. And so is you know, I don't want to say I had this deep secret knowledge of how this was going to work, but later I looked at it and go, wow, when a dad finally shows up and says, hey, listen, I own my stuff. I own my mistake. I'm here, ready, willing, able to let's go and put this in place. And again, like you said, and to realize that, how was it? I mean, I had told Selena about you before we got married.
Yeah, I didn't even. I mean, that honestly, that really shocked me at first.
You know, because I knew about you. Again, like I said, you know, 2 years I think after you were, I guess, kind of born or right around there, or sometime. I really get born again. I begin to pray for you and just Lord that she knows you and that we meet each other at the right time, because I really had thought I had painted myself in a corner. From what was told to me. Yeah, and you were told a lot of stuff. And I was told a lot of stuff, you know, and so that I had painted myself into a corner and all this other kind of stuff. And so anyway, so as I began to grow in God, that was my prayer. So when I meet Selena, I was like, okay, she needs to know, because I'm truly asking God that at a right time. Yeah. And again, I wasn't the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I realized that's not a surprise.
That's not an, by the way.
Oh, by the way.
15 years into your marriage. Oh, that's what I forgot to tell you. It wasn't about the stove being on.
Yeah, it wasn't about, you know, so we sat down with Selena, and I knew we were going to be considering marriage and even considering getting serious with each other. I said, hey, listen, you need to know this because you got to be able to accept this piece of my past, because I'm believing God for it to be restored as He would, right? And so now, and she was gracious, and she's watching. She was gracious. Yeah. And was like, and again, and it wasn't a light decision on her. She went, oh, sure, no problem. I remember she goes, well, I'm going to have to go pray about this. And I sat on pins and needles for a while thinking, well, here we go. Let's see what happens. And then she comes back and says, you know, again, I think if God helps me, I think we can. It'll, you know, I understand. And so we move forward. Yeah. So, but even with that, there still is a challenge that comes. What is she saying? I made it a huge difference when we finally met. Yeah, it started to become, it did, because it was there, didn't make it easy on any sides.
Oh, no. I don't want to, look, we're not trying to paint roses here. No. I mean, and I don't want to say it was all bad. I just want everybody to have realistic expectations that it's hard. We call it hard yards.
Hard yards, that's right.
It's the years where you were like, I'm really struggling, but we're not letting go. Yeah, and that's right. What you have, and that's what you have, the determination you have to make. Right. If it's really that important to you, because it's not going to be easy. Like, your soul gets involved, people's emotions are involved. Like I said, expectations one way or the other get involved. Yeah. And none of that's bad. That's called being alive. Yeah, that's right. That's right. and just making things work. Yeah. But yeah, even the fact that we shared, though, you need to let, if you're in that situation and you're dating somebody, they need to know, like, now. Mm-hmm. They need to know now about all your stuff. I mean, all your stuff. If it's crazy, all your crazy. Mm-hmm. If it's whatever, because you have to give people a chance to prepare and know what they're getting into.
That's exactly.
And we don't talk about that enough. And that's why, like, you know, you get married and you think we're just gonna magically figure this out. Like, I think about that movie, Yours, Mine, and Ours. You know, this extreme movie that she had 9 kids, he had 9 kids, and they're like, we'll just get married, and obviously they're all gonna love each other.
Yeah, no.
And then the whole movie was like, no. Because that's not fair, because other people are involved.
Yeah.
And you're actually asking everybody else, because it's not just, put it this way, restoration into a family is not just, there is this things of our culture of, it's just me and that person. Yeah, and we think that all the time. It's just me. It's only going to affect me.
Yeah.
And no, if it affects you, it affects your family. It affects everyone you love, from your job to your church to your everything.
Yeah. Well, it's really I've been re-listening to some of Andy Andrews' books, and I like what he says. You know, it's really like the butterfly effect.
Yeah.
The whole, kind of idea that a butterfly can flap its wing on one side of the planet and move air molecules in connection enough to cause a storm on the other side of the planet. Yeah. Every decision we make affects everyone in our world. It ripples out like the little ripples of a dropping a pebble in a pond, right? So I say that, and again, coming back, because I come back around to talking about blendedness.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking about this whole time about we've all made smoothies.
Yeah.
Right? And the end product is awesome.
Yeah.
The process of making a smoothie can be quite messy.
Yeah.
Especially if you don't put the lid on the blender.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, especially if you don't keep it contained. If you don't keep, but even if you keep it contained, we endeavor to do that. We tried to keep the lid on things in the sense of not tell people, but work it out with ourselves first.
We didn't do this live 12 years ago because we wouldn't be here today.
That's exactly right. Yeah,
I mean, that would have been horrible. Like, I think I look back now and I'm like, oh my gosh, we were like a hot mess.
Well, exactly.
I mean, at least I was a hot mess.
Hey, we all were a hot mess. And so let me try to tie some of this back up, because we got about 3 strands going.
Yeah.
So as the dad, as the leader of our household, I had to own my mistakes with everybody.
Yeah.
I had to, again, be okay. And that's what grace helps us. We said in the first one, this is what grace helps us do, to live in the presence of our past without any guilt or condemnation, but with the awareness of my past caused this.
Yeah.
My past hurt people. My past made a mess. And now grace is going to help me rebuild and clean up what I've done. With that, right, I had to be willing to lead you and lead Selena and the other kids into this process, right? So there was a season where, because I was tending both sides of the wall, right? I was working and helping you, helping Selena, helping the kids. I mean, I remember, if she's watching, Sophia, our eldest, as an example, had to help her because she was crying and crying and crying one day, and I said, "What's up?" She goes, "Well, it's about Audra." And I said, "Well, what about Audra?" "I'm not the firstborn anymore."
Yeah.
And she was little, and
I felt so bad about that.
And we had to walk and say, "Well, no, it's unique. Yeah. You are still the firstborn of this, but Audra is the only born of this. But now we're better because we're all together in what God is restoring."
Yeah.
But again, back to my smoothie analogy, but like a smoothie, it's messy, but makes a lot of noise.
Well, Selena said soup too, like the soup analogy better. You can still see the components, I think.
And I like that too. Yeah.
But going back to that, too, you have to, if you're the person, for me, a big thing was I had a lot of belonging issues, just to be honest. And we had to go back and say, because, here's a reality. If you're a blended family, if you're somebody that's coming in, there was already a family.
Yeah.
So even though I'm in this family, I am a Holloman, and that's why I like when people make the distinction. I'm like, you're a Kennedy and they're a Holloman. I'm like, I'm still a Holloman.
Yeah.
It doesn't,
You're a Holloman.
But there is a thing about, the 5 children and you guys, that is a family unit, and I am a part of that, but that is also a distinct thing.
Yes.
That it took me many, many, many years to not feel like I was being excluded.
Yeah.
But there is a reality. There's still children. That is the birth order of their children.
Yeah.
And I'm a part of that.
Yeah.
and I get included in the mix. Hey, we have 6 kids, we have this, but like, there has to be a reality of, and that was weird for me because I stand distinctly almost in between two families that, between two groups of people.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I fit in both, but it looks different for me.
It's different, yeah.
And that's something that you have to kind of wrestle. That's an alligator you have to wrestle yourself to the ground, or you are going to be
that's right
sad.
Well, and I think and I think again, as we try to help blended families, I think that's one of the things that I have seen over so many years of doing ministry, especially. We just think, oh, well, like you said, it's all going to mash up now, and it's all going to be this new one happy big thing, and no, there are distinct things that you have to embrace.
And if you're divorced and you remarry, and do you have kids and they have kids, and you have a kid with the person you're with, you're your own family, separate from
the other
children. And that's something we do not talk about. But you have to recognize that reality. So you'll have 3 different families together in one
soup pot, as Selena said.
And if you don't acknowledge that, it's not going to go well with you. And I don't mean that to be mean, but like, because you have to recognize that's a lot of emotions. That's a lot of where do I fit? And you have to be very intentional about seeing the soup and pointing things out and saying, here's where you fit, but here's where it's different. Here's where
But all together,
you're the soup.
We are the wonderful thing, the soup that is there. So anyway, hey, I hate you guys. The duck has quacked. And I really got to go because I got my boss waiting on me for a meeting. But anyway. So I hope y'all enjoying this. I'm having fun. Are we having fun?
We're having fun.
Okay, good.
I'm going to blink.
Help. Send help.
We're having a great time.
We're having a great time. But it's... But please do ask us now your questions. We're about 3 sessions in. It really will help us to know how to serve you if you just let us know if there's any questions, comments, things you'd like us to talk about. You've heard us kind of tell some of the story. Can you say, hey, can you elaborate on this part? Probably in the coming days and weeks, we're going to get like Selena in to talk from her perspective. We're going to get some of the kids to come in and talk from their perspective. Because what we know, and this is what I can say from the Bible, what we know is that love conquers and love never fails and love bears up under all things and love believes all things and hopes all things. And so with the real love of God in operation in our lives, we can restore that which has been broken. Right. And it will be like the ox, it will be great benefit because of the strength of your ox. Okay? All right, check out thehollimans.com. All kinds of stuff to do. Push all the buttons, all of them. Just click all of them. And it'll be great.
All right, we'll talk more next week.
Talk next week. Bye-bye.